Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
All right, Michael, how you doing today? We are live now.
Hello, Eddie. Yeah, I'm fine. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. You told me earlier that you're in Brussels, so you're a little bit late for you.
Exactly.
But let's go ahead and tackle this to give some valuable information to our audience. Michael, to give them a little bit of context of your background, why don't you tell us how you got into the sales industry, specifically into sales outsourcing?
Well, me, myself, I've got more than 12 years of experience in sales and sales management as it is. So once an opportunity happened to join the WinPeo's, the leading player of the sales outsourcing market according to independent researchers, it was just a yes for me. And I had really good alignment with our CEO and founder, Vincent Coopers, who has created WinPeo back to 2020 during COVID times, basically at the peak of COVID. And he sort of realized that instead of dealing with his garden, he can take his 30 years sales experience and put it into the business. And it happened that it paid off a lot. And currently, more than 55 companies have tried and approved the sales as a service concept which we're dealing with.
Wow, so that's more than almost half a century of experience in sales combined between you and your CEO. And you mentioned
Exactly.
55 different customers. Tell me a little bit about your best fit customers at WinPeo.
Well, since we're mostly dealing with online and remote sales, we will be of help a lot if you sell something online. And the best customer for us, I should say, it's a software as a service company in different spheres. I mean, we mostly have like cybersecurity, clean tech, different solutions. But in best case scenario, our customers should be software as a service. It's our specialty. Let's put it this way.
All right, software as a service that are sold online. That's who you best work with. Now, within SaaS, I would imagine so many years in the market, you may have different services. Let's talk about one service today and a success story for that service. So, which service would you like to share with the audience?
Well, obviously, I would like to share the sales as a service. And usually it happens so that our customers who are new to WinPeo and want to try us, to challenge us, to make sure that we're as good as they have heard, we usually start with the prospection and appointing the meetings with the potential customers for our customers. It all begins with the strategic scan where we make sure that we're aligned with the customer in terms of the sales approach, in terms of the target audience, in terms of scripts,
Mhm.
and all the stuff like this. So to begin the actual sales campaign, we should be really sure that we are on the same page and we have similar mutual goals and we're going into the same direction. Obviously, when we understand that, well, it happens at times, sales are sales at the end of the day. And if we understand that plan A did not work, then we just take plan B and keep the prospection according to plan B. So we are always open for certain alterations and corrections, which can be possible and can be successful when the customer is actually involved into what's going on. It's one of the key aspects of our success.
All right, Michael, let's unpack a little bit of that. You mentioned you typically hire for appointment setting, everything from lead generation to appointment setting. Off camera, you did share that you can do even some further steps as in closing deals, do onboarding. But now we're going to talk about the appointment setting service or sales as a service that you mentioned. And help me understand a little bit of who is the target audience for the service. So you mentioned you are hired by sales as a service, software as a service companies. Who do you typically target for those companies? Who is a good target audience for you to convert?
So It depends, but usually we're targeting the CEOs of different companies and CTOs, and in some cases like project managers. But it's about the cases where the potential customers are scale ups, you know. But when you're targeting the startups and you do understand that there are certain people responsible for everything, people who want to make sure that they do control their business. We usually target the top people, so the founders, co-founders, CEOs, and stuff like this. So basically, our sales experts are really well trained to have some good communication with people of certain seniority.
Okay, almost like the C-suite in, I would imagine, SMB's companies. Now, when it comes to locations, what is your preferred geography to target?
Well, the thing is that we are unique in terms of the fact that all of our salespeople are multilingual and multicultural. So we are operating across the whole Europe, the UK, most recently the United Arab Emirates, and we are open to go to the USA in the near future. So the thing is that language does not matter that much because our team is really international, and it's really good for our customers who are, for instance, from the USA or from England to go to Europe, to Benelux, for example, or to France, and make sure that the prospection for them is done in accordance with the mentality and the culture of the potential customer, which obviously makes it easier to approach in the best way possible.
Perfect. I like that. So, business leaders, SMB leaders, if you have a SaaS in your headquarters outside of Europe, but you want to grow there, you could be a good partner because you're going to have that local expertise, local feel, both from a cultural fit as well as a language fit to be able to carry on that message. Now, when it comes to the target of your buyers, is there a preferred? You mentioned owners, smaller companies, language, no problema. Okay, what type of results can you deliver for your buyers? Give me an example of someone that was getting X number of meetings before working with you, and after working with you, how does that look like?
Usually, not always, but in most of the cases, the customers we have did not have sales experience before, or they had some, and it was not a success. And we approached them with the new view on how it is to be done. So sometimes it happens that people have like 2 to 3 appointments in a couple of months before us, and
Okay.
we make sure that they have at least 8 to 10. It's somewhat an average goal for us. And before us the companies are sometimes not recognized, and after half a year with WinPeo they have to admit that in their business spheres different people know who they are. And for us, it's the biggest success in the very beginning. Obviously, when we continue our collaboration with our customers for the next half a year, for example, or for the next year, then we want to do as many sales as possible. And
Hmm.
during the 5 or 6 months of our collaboration in the first contract, they do understand that obviously we can not we can do the prospection and appoint the meetings, but we can also do the actual presentations and then to close the deals.
Demos and close. Okay, good. Now, in this example that you mentioned, hey, we had a customer that initially was getting just 2 meetings a month, and we took him all the way to 8, 10. How long did it take you to get there? Because you did mention, hey, we can ramp up close deals, but precisely from the 2 meetings to the 8 to 10 meetings per month, how long it took you to get there?
Well, it's in that particular case, for example, it took us around 2.5 months, because usually the first months and a half, it's a learning curve where we make sure that our internal sales experts are getting really familiar with the product or the service of our customer. And then when the first round of prospection is done and we have certain leads to make sure that they want the meeting, well, yeah, usually it's 2.5 or 3 months where we are already on top in terms of appointing the meetings, and the sales machine is really going forward.
Okay, so 2 to 3 months to ramp up, have a well-oiled machine that is already delivering consistently. Now let's talk about that initial setup, learning curve that you mentioned, and how your service starts. I want to ask you first around the lead list, the target list. How do you build the target list if someone were to hire you today? What's included there? What sources? How do you clean them? Help me understand that, please.
Yeah, obviously, it's a great question, Eddie, because usually the customers really want to make sure they do approach the right people in terms of selling to them. And if they do
Right.
not understand it, we help them to understand it, because it's vital to make sure that there is certain drive within sales approaching the right people. So we have basically three different options. Option number one is we're getting somewhat a list of the companies which our customer wants to approach but does not have contacts, for example, like phone numbers, emails, whatever. So we are using certain up-to-date modern tools to make sure we get all the information about every person in the list, obviously in accordance with GDPR and stuff like that. And after we have the list ready for the prospection, we begin the prospection.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned if the customer has an idea of who they want to sell to, you take that, you use other tools to amplify the contact data information, make sure that phone numbers and emails are reliable while being compliant with GDPR regulation. Someone in listening to this, there's a regulation in the in Europe, so that you don't spam, you don't over outbound people that you have no connection or relationship with. You need to almost earn the permission to do the outbound. And now help me, now that you're executing, let's say you build a target lead list, tell me about the channels and the sales sequences you use. How many touches would a lead receive on a monthly basis?
Well, again, our approach is custom built for every customer and every product and business sphere. But in general, what we are doing is we are doing the prospection, then we are doing the leads qualification, the follow-ups, and then appointing the meetings. In terms of how many touches, we believe that the customer should be touched 2 to 4 times a month to make sure that the meeting is appointed, the customer is still interested and not angry, obviously. But again, the approach is very flexible in terms of what the customer wants. And so we make sure we perform the best way possible.
Okay, perfect. Now, and in this, let's say in this success story that you were sharing around the 2 meetings a month to 8 to 10, what was their average deal value for their service?
The average deal value is usually, if we take all of our customer, is around $10,000 to $20,000 a year. But again, it depends on the product.
So you were saying 10 to 20K annual deal, annual contract value on average. They had an idea on who to target. You enhanced that, cleaned it, started your sequence, 4 touches minimum per month to not burn the leads. And the last piece here of this puzzle is if someone were to hire you for your sales as a service offering to book more appointments, what reports can they look at? What KPIs do you report? And what systems, platforms, or dashboard do you create for them? How does that look like?
So, in terms of the reporting, we have weekly meetings with each of our customers, weekly and monthly, to make sure we go through all the KPIs which we have from our CRM and the tool we're using for calling. Because, going international, you need the right number for each country. So it will be a bit weird for a customer or for a potential customer from France to be called with, I don't know, an Italian or USA number, for example. So we make sure we call from the number which is corresponding with the inhabitants of the potential customer. So each and every week we're going through the current results in terms of number of calls, number of SQLs, number of follow-ups, and obviously number of the meetings appointed and meetings done if we're going to the next stages and deals closed.
Perfect. So there's productivity numbers and conversion numbers included in the reporting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So if you're a SaaS company, there's definitely some potential collaboration, especially if you want to grow into Europe. So someone listening to this and considering to work with WinPeo, what would be some tips that you can give them for them to increase the chances of getting the results they want fast working with your team, Michael?
Yeah, it's a great question. And here I can tell you that if someone comes over and tells you like, hey, we want to make fast sales, if we do this and that and stuff like that into a certain deadline, and people say that, oh yeah, we will do it for you, then they're probably lying, because basically no one can guarantee you that the sales will go as hell in within 1 month or 2 months or whatever. So it is what it is. But obviously there are certain tips. Tip number one, in my opinion, is involvement. So we are the most successful with the customers who are really ready for the feedback all the time, who are ready to answer certain questions from our side, who are ready to discuss new approaches and new tools to be used, the changes into the script, so all of that stuff. If you're involved and if you are fired up to expand your sales indeed, then it's just destined to be successful. As of tip number two, I would say that the transparency is obviously very meaningful, and we really do want the right feedback from the customer in terms of his satisfaction with what we are doing. So we really ask our customers if they're unhappy about anything, if they just want to look into different kind of reporting, if they are missing something or what we are doing for them, just do not hesitate to let us know that you're uncomfortable. And it will definitely help us to come back to the right track or to improve what we are doing in the head of the customer, because we really want our customers to be happy, not just with the speed and with the quality, but in terms of their satisfaction and in terms of their understanding of what is going on. So if you're uncomfortable, feel free to ask your questions. It's very important. And as of tip number three, I would say is know your goals. Because when the goal is identified precisely, then we can just decompose it into certain steps and follow those steps to make sure that the goals are achieved and achieved faster than they would be if you do not know them precisely.
Okay, perfect. I like that. So there's three main tips for the audience. The first one, get involved. It has to be a two-way communication street. You share with them feedback, they give you feedback, but ultimately be aligned. How can you be aligned if your buyer is not involved? So that's tip number one. Tip number two, you mentioned transparency. Yes, be involved, but be involved with the truth. Share the good stuff and the bad stuff. And the third one, I like this. I think it's a very, very important one for most people, especially in the journey of outsourcing sales. Everyone know that they want to grow revenue, but they don't know by how much. So they're exposed to sellers and they tell them, what can you do for me? And the seller is gonna sell them if they don't have a goal in mind. But if they come to the agencies, to their service providers, and tell them, these are the numbers that I'm looking for, can you deliver this? It's much better, a much better conversation. So I like that you mentioned understand your goals, know what we are going to be aiming for, so that we, WinPeo as your sales agency, can break those goals into actionable, bite-sized chunks, little iterations of progression that we can start to hit and then deliver the ultimate goal that you're looking for. If we don't know where you want to go, there's no way we can take you there, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Eddie, I'm so happy with how you resume it all. Really beautiful.
Awesome, awesome.
Seriously.
So appreciate that, Michael. So, for the audience, again, if you have a SaaS product, you want to sell it into Europe, and you need help, um, ideally appointment setting, but you guys can take it a step further, closing even further, onboarding your customers. Then they should be looking at you. Average deal value that you're comfortable working with, $10,000 to $20,000 a year. That's going to be a good sweet spot. Michael, anything else you want to share with the audience before we wrap up for today?
The only thing I have to add is just challenge us, try us, and you will, and we will make sure that you will not just make the prospection and appointing the meetings with us, but you will go further and we will close deals for you because we open doors and close deals. That is all about WinPeo.
Awesome, Michael. There you have it, team. If you are considering to work with WinPeo, you can find them in the CloudTask marketplace. Michael, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your
Likewise,
time.
Eddie. Have a nice day. See you. Bye bye.
Awesome. Bye bye.